Great little paper.
Socialist Appeal, fight for social delegate. What's that?
Well, we got some analysis on Bernie and Hillary talking about how the DNC is corrupt and it's just it's a party of the bourgeoisie and a party of...
Bourgeoisie.
Yeah, right? I know. But there's no better word for it. I mean, like...
What a funny word.
We're trying to get that into mainstream lingo again.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not really mainstream. I mean, as far as bourgeoisie is concerned, wasn't it coined by Karl Marx? Wasn't the word bourgeoisie coined by Karl Marx?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So
I don't know if he was the first one to use it, but it was popularized. So yeah.
I haven't heard this for quite some time. So what's the appeal of socialism?
The appeal of socialism is that capitalism is declining. We're seeing all the problems that are resulting from its death throes. I mean,
you don't mind me recording that, right?
I mean, I'd prefer if you didn't. But
what do you mean? You're here demonstrating, and
I am.
You know
it makes me nervous. I mean,
really?
I have stage fright. It's not that I'm afraid of my face going out.
Okay, how about this? Let's pretend that the camera is not aimed at you.
Oh, it's not me.
See,
Yeah.
it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway. So what's the appeal of socialism? You're saying that capitalism is in decline.
Capitalism is decline, and we need to have the economy controlled by the workers and the people who, the majority of the population, instead of the capitalists at the top, so we can provide the services that we need instead of having political parties that serve the wealthy for the interests of the wealthy.
But how do you think it's gonna happen? I mean, wasn't socialism tried in the past?
Well, we'd say that it was not tried in the past. All the places where socialism has succeeded have been backwards countries, and they've developed in such a way that they're distortions of a real socialist society.
What is a real socialist society?
A real socialist society is where the workers control industry. It's a democracy. Everything is democratically controlled, and services are provided to people. There's a guarantee of the essentials of life, food, and basic income.
See, the funny thing is that I kind of, the type of a guy who we have any conversation, not necessarily discussion, any conversation, I like science, for instance. Science, for example, is very particular by the definitions. So definitions are extremely important because if we agree that, the sky is blue, there's really nothing to talk about. Feel the burn! All right. So, what do you think is the, let's say, classic definition of socialism?
Okay.
I mean, you're not saying social.
Classic definition of socialism would, I think, be workers' control of the economy.
What does that mean?
It means that if you work in a factory or you work at McDonald's, you have just as much of a say over how things are produced and distributed as a multimillionaire banker or multi-billionaire banker.
So that's what you think is classic definition of socialism. I mean, from what I know,
that's a planned economy, at least.
Planned economy. And you think the planned economy will work?
Yes. I mean,
and where did it work? I mean,
Cuba's doing very
really? Cuba's doing very well. Really?
I mean, it's being portrayed as like this big social failure.
Cuba's. What about North Korea? What about North
Korea? Oh no, North Korea. We consider that a deformed worker state.
Deformed.
I mean, it's just. It's an oligarchy. It's an oligarchy. It's not socialism. We don't claim that as socialism.
Well, look.
Who are you with? Are you?
Just myself. Don't worry. So it's not like it's gonna be on big mass media. You don't see any small camera. So nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I hope not.
You're doing good so far. So my question is, I mean, the last time that I learned about socialism is basically, again, classic definition is lack of two things. A, private property, right? So no one can have private property, not to be confused with personal property, right? Not to be confused with that.
Thank you.
And profit is criminalized. So your version of socialism, is profit encouraged or profit is going to be criminalized?
I think exploitation is criminalized.
But what's the difference between exploitation and profit? Where do you draw the line then?
I think that if you are exploiting people, you're hiring them for their surplus value, and you're hiring them to make money for you, for your own personal gain. That is profit. And then...
Okay, let me make it simple.
Sure.
Let's say, do you think that in your version of socialism there can be, let's say, a taxi cab driver who will make money? It's just one-man operation. I mean, he's driving a taxi, you know, he has the bills to pay. I mean,
think that it would have to depend on the conditions of the country. I think that...
But it's kind of yes or no. I mean...
Yes, it's more complicated than that. It has to do with the scenario of the country. It's like...
So what would be your scenario of socialism? I mean, it's a big thing.
You decide that you want to employ 50 people in your city to be taxi cab drivers, and then another person says, hey, I see that these people are having a good time being taxi cab drivers, getting all these benefits being taxi cab drivers. I also want to be a taxi cab driver. I think that wouldn't be allowed.
So in other words, you are against, let's say, someone having like a proverbial lemonade stand, because lemonade stand is sort of the enterprise where we make money.
No, but
I'm just trying to pick your brains. I mean, don't...
Yeah. Okay.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate. I think that...
And it's a big change, you know, from capitalism to socialism. I mean...
I think there's no issues with the smaller...
I'm sorry. You guys know what's up today, 2 o'clock? 10
What's happening?
Huh?
What's happening?
We're having a die-in.
A who? A what?
We're all dying for Bernie Sanders.
You're dying for Bernie Sanders?
We're all dying for Bernie Sanders.
You
Every
mean
one of us.
literally?
Wherever you happen to be standing, if you happen to see people dropping dead all around you, consider joining us. When the media comes and wants to know why,
We'll be
tell them
all
why.
dead.
We are. What's that?
We will be all dead? That's what you're suggesting?
Everyone is going to drop dead for 5
Drop dead.
minutes.
Oh,
Wherever
just
you
for
happen
5
to be
minutes.
standing, it's gonna
And then miraculously
we're
we're
going to die-in. And we're going to tell them why.
Okay.
Because America is dead. If it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, there's only one honest candidate available, and we want him. We want the superdelegates to know before the next roll call. The media will tell them.
And what do you think Bernie Sanders? We're just talking about this gentleman. What's her name?
Eric.
Eric, I'm Vladimir.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. So Eric, so we're talking with Eric. I'm Vladimir.
I'm Bob. Hi, Eric.
Pleasure. Let me shake your hand. Like a man.
Yep.
So what's, I mean, we're just talking about socialism. You know, Eric's kind of suggesting this social appeal thing.
Socialism is nothing less than just caring about the people. Bernie's socialism, democratic socialism, is caring about the people, putting the people first ahead of the people that own this.
But what's your definition? We're just, you know, talking with Eric about socialism, definitions. I mean, what's your vision of socialism?
I just explained it, really. I think
Well,
what
but
it is,
specifically-
the government putting the masses first. You know, right now,
And you like the word masses.
the government works
Okay.
for the upper 10%. They work for
But
the
I think
upper
you also
10%.
have to
That's all there is
recognize
to it.
the government has to not be a separate entity
No,
from the people.
they're
It has
actually
to
working
be-
against the people, and that's why this election is so important. This is it. This is our one chance.
But what are you going to do now that the Hillary is presumptive nominee? What are you going to do with, you know, feel the burn?
And I'm leaving the Democratic Party, and so is a lot of people. I'm leaving
Really?
tomorrow. Oh, I'm leaving the Democratic Party.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sure, it's a good idea.
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Oh, you gotta go?
I gotta go die.
Oh, you got to go.
Bye.
Okay, that's an interesting concept.
So I think the idea with planned economies is that
Yes.
the commanding heights of industry are under democratic control of like the 5-year plan, say.
But how? I mean, there was a country that was implementing those 5-year plans, and that was the USSR.
Okay.
And in the USSR, it didn't really work. And how would, let's say, bureaucrats sitting in Moscow, for instance?
We don't want that. We don't want that.
So how is this going to be different? But before we go, you know, to that, I just wanted to explain to me, how do you see this profit thing? So, I mean, one of the reasons I brought it up, for instance, is in Cuba, after so many years, over what, 50 years since what, 1959, 58, the revolution, right? You don't remember the revolution? I mean, you're a socialist. Do you remember these dates?
I mean, it's too much no.
Do you remember when the Soviets, I mean, the first revolution took place?
1917.
1917. That's the good one. That you remember. Okay,
Not
good.
our October, but their October.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So even in Cuba today, they all of a sudden allow, you know, this little private enterprise to take root. Now they have taxi cabs for the first time making money for themselves.
Yeah.
They'll allow kind of, you know, small mom and pop little like lemonade states type of thing to take root. Something that had been forbidden for over 50 years. So how can you explain that? I mean, aren't these like, there was socialism and then to survive, support socialism, some sort of elements of capitalism started creeping in? I mean, what's your explanation for that?
I don't know a ton about the current economic plan for Cuba, but I do know that it's done in such a way that's very careful. I know that the plans of the Cuban economy are very rigorously planned, and I'm sure that there's a reason for that.
But why would, after 50 years, all of a sudden, they would change the system? If it were so successful, why fix something that's ain't broken, as the saying goes?
They're trying to grow their economy or something. I'm not.
So in other words, it wasn't growing fast enough under socialism, so they have to have implement some elements of capitalism. I mean,
I don't feel like I can debate these points. I don't have a good enough idea of.
No, just common sense. I mean, right?
Common sense.
Let's say I came from Mars.
Sure.
I'm just using common sense, just logic, simple logic, right?
Sure.
So if the system were so good, why change it to something different? If for 50 years they didn't have private taxi cabs, all of a sudden, they're forced to allow that. I mean, why the change? I mean, logically thinking, right?
I'm not sure.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
But how are we going to build you want socialism to be appealing to me, hence the name, Socialist Appeal.
Yes.
So how would it be appealing to me? I mean, how
would it be appealing to you?
How will you make me a socialist, right?
I think that it's
legitimate question, right?
Listening a little bit here.
A little bit. I think that it's enough to say that our economy is now run by the oligarchy, and we want the economy to be run by you and me and that guy.
But how do you think that's going to work? I mean, if for argument's sake, we have this system as it is today, the capitalist system. I hope you're not in a run. You have like five minutes from me. Okay, I mean, we can stay here the whole day. Right? In the shade, it's not
start throwing tear gas.
Well, I mean, whatever. Never experienced that in my life. Might be something new.
Where are you from?
USSR.
USSR.
That's why I'm asking all this question. It's like, I lived it.
You lived it.
So that's why when you are trying to convince me that socialism all of a sudden is a good idea, it's like, I kind of saw the movie.
But I mean, we
right?
Stalin.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
You've saw the filming of it.
And it's not like it has a pretty ending. I mean, it's collapsed. I mean, the first guy.
You're also the Soviet Union lived in Stalin's
Bernie Sanders style of social democracy.
Well, but social democracy, you still don't have people running the economy. You still, even in Sweden and Norway and stuff, you still have.
So you allow a capitalist society, but you have oversight, governmental oversight, not ownership. We don't own.
But it has to be workers' control. You can't have.
But how is it going to work?
That's how a democracy is supposed to work. Now, clearly, it's not stealing elections and this and that and everything else. But if you've got a fully functioning democracy, then you don't need the pure socialism, democratic socialism.
But we know that it's not working. We know that even in countries without planned economies like Sweden and Denmark,
but it's not so.
It's not working. I mean, their income inequality is. There's going to be some people who have some money and some people who don't.
No, but it's not just some money. It's billions of dollars.
But where do you draw the line? I mean, that's
their income inequality is so normalized compared to ours. There is going to be.
They're changing that.
Yeah, I mean, it might be slipping
away. The capitalists
away, right?
are still in control, and they're changing that.
But is this? And I'm not saying I'm anti-socialist, but I feel like you said, you were there in person in Russia.
Correct. That's right. I saw the movie. I've seen the movie.
How is that corruption and all that goes along any different than what?
We don't believe in the centralized bureaucratic planning of Stalinism.
But you just said central planning. I mean,
democratic plan.
But how? Let's say Fargo.
I was pushing democratic planning. But you're like, no, it needs to be
social. I'm against social democracy, which is its own brand.
Yeah, but look, there's a fundamental difference. That's what I'm trying, to get through the minds of the people I talk to. There's a fundamental difference between social democracy, and I'm for social progress. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of people who need our help. Versus socialism, which is a completely different system. We discussed the two major tenets of socialism: private property criminalized, profit criminalized. I mean, these are two the most fundamental thing that it can get. In Scandinavia, guess what? They have some of the strictest property laws in the whole world. profit? I mean, you betcha. Volvo is making money. Do you think, or Nokia, or I mean, I'm just bringing the huge corporations. Taxi cabs, of course there are taxi cabs over here. It's not a question. Lemonade states, you betcha. Socialism can't even have a lemonade state. So when you're saying that the workers are going to control the production, means of production, that's, Karl Marx said. We had to learn all this crap back in the USSR, obviously. So the workers control the means of production. So how decisions are going to be made? There are some people who would go to college. I mean, here's the scenario. It's, I guess, a legitimate kind of question. So somebody goes to college, okay, spends, let's say, 4 years. Let's say it's free. It was free over there. So spends time, instead of fooling around with girls, it is in college, he's slaving to get the best education he can get under the system. He goes back to the factory, and what? He has to kind of work like everybody else? I mean, wouldn't, let's say, someone who got better education get better remuneration, better salary? I mean,
we're not against different incomes and wages. I mean, until we get to full communism and everyone gets everyone to their need, from each to their ability.
I'm lazy bastard.
You're a lazy bastard.
I hate working.
You hate working.
I really want to stay at home or pretend like there's a formula in USSR. I pretend that you work, or we pretend that we work, and they pretend that they pay.
But it's also the bureaucratic centralization of the legacy of Stalinism that keeps people from being invested in society and invested in their work. I mean,
but why do I'm lazy bastard? I don't give a damn. I'm a lazy bastard, right?
But if you saw that your work was going towards the benefit of society and it wasn't,
I don't care. I was thinking about me. I mean, other people.
I don't think you'd feel that way. I don't think you'd feel
really
that way under.
So all of a sudden they changed the system just like that everybody will think about we're all brothers.
We're not saying instantaneous, and we don't think that we should get rid of the wage system right away.
No, but seriously, I mean, of course, all jokes about this. This is a very serious issue. I mean, changing capitalist system to socialism. I mean, one kind of thing comes to mind that, to me, as far as recent events are concerned, Venezuela.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you explain what's happening in Venezuela? I mean,
well, Venezuela is still not worker control of industry and the economy. It's still not workers' management. It's still controlled by the capitalists.
But the funny thing is that it was they had decent standard of living. I mean, decent, not great, but decent. At least decent enough to have toilet paper available every day, to have food available every day. Then Hugo Chavez came over. In 10 years now, they have to run to Colombia, across the border, to get staples. I mean, for crying out loud.
Now, is that because of external forces trying to
tampering of the upper class of the U.S. and the U.S. media? We know
the last time I checked, Maduro is in control. Almost total, complete control of the country. The last time I checked, Venezuela, just like USSR, the country I came originally from, was sitting on the largest reserves of minerals, oil in the case of Venezuela, and yet back in USSR we had the same problem, scarcity. I mean, think about it. They had gas, oil, gold, I mean, you name it. There was no toilet paper. Up until 1970s, speaking of planning, nobody thought about kind of making toilet paper in USSR up until the 70s, right?
I know, right?
Well, I know. I had, to wipe my, with paper. I mean, newspaper. It all get black and dirty, but hey, what else can you do?
Gotta clean it somehow.
Clean the leaves. What's that?
Don't flush it. Don't flush it. Don't flush the newspaper.
Well, of course, I'm not talking about the period when the Stalin's time. God forbid, if you flush your, rear end with a portrait of Stalin, you'll be in Gulag.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, it's a newspaper, for crying out loud. There's just a picture of, Stalin. What else? There is no toilet paper. What are you supposed to do? Gulag. That. But anyway, so how are we going to change our capitalist system that they're saying is failing to become a prosperous socialist country when that process has been taking place in Venezuela, and now they have to stand in line for toilet paper? I mean, do you want the same happen to America first before you think that this kind of utopian society will take root? I mean, what's your plan?
Venezuela is not America. America is a much more advanced country as well. I mean, it's like it's the same as saying,
you're saying that advancement is inherently wrong, though. Well, you're saying what's what we call advancement, the capitalists.
No, I'm saying we have an
That's right, it's a good point. What made it advanced?
Workforce, we have industrial capacity, we have engineers that know
But
how
why?
to build
Why?
sewer systems and build toilet paper plants.
But why so? Well, why did all of that become available in this country? It was never ever jeans. Forget about jeans. Fighting jeans in USSR, forget about it. It just simply didn't exist. Toilet paper, again, didn't exist
But then,
up until
but
1970s.
why should
Here's my take home from this whole thing. You need to learn debating points stronger before you pass these out. Because if someone does talk to you about it and not just take one, you've got to be able to
this, and this.
You've got to have an appeal, and you don't. I mean, I'm not.
I know.
I'm busting your chops, so I'm not trying to personally attack you.
I totally understand.
But
yes.
you've got to have talking points that are solid, sound, and be able to know what questions people are going to ask, and have something to say about it.
True. And the truth is that I've started reading Karl Marx, then I started reading Trotsky only about 6 months ago. So I mean, I don't consider myself an expert on this, but I see the truth and like the
funny
power
thing,
of these ideas.
But the funny thing is that we're not discussing and debating Das Kapital. We're just having common sense conversation. That's it.
That's philosophy.
But is there any reason? Is there any
Right.
reason?
philosophy.
It's not philosophy. It's not.
It's you can call it science. Yeah, I mean, but it is.
Have you read any?
Yes, I have read some, and I've been impressed with it. I mean, it sounds really good, and that's why I call it that's why I'm saying as a philosophy. Like on paper, if everyone really did want to go to work and want to have, but to your point, I'm a lazy bastard.
Yeah, that's right.
Why am I going to go to work really hard, get paid the same as this guy?
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm staying home, or
That's right.
And so that's why I call it a philosophy.
Yeah.
Because quantum physics dictates that every particle is its own little thing, right? So each person in a society is their own little thing. Yeah. Like you can't, quantum physics is a philosophy as much as it's a science, just like that. Like you can't control every little part. You don't know every little part is. You don't, and you're unable to ever know, right? So that's why it sounds really good on paper. That's why I do like Bernie to come out and say, "Hey, I am a socialist," but it's that democratic social. It's that power to the people, and it's a vision, it's a philosophy of democracy. 19% of the population only voted in the primaries. F that. What the fuck is a democracy when 19% vote in the primaries? I mean, granted, we're given our candidates anyway. Here, you get to choose from these two shitty people, right? Stupid, But if in a real democracy, in France, you know how many people would be on the street right now protesting a stolen election? Millions. Do you know how many people in any democratic socialist country in Europe, if WikiLeaks had come out and said the primary was stolen, there wouldn't be 4 dozen people here.
That's true.
Bitching like a bunch of little kids.
It's also
There'd be
the culture
millions.
of America, though. It's the American culture.
It is. It's be told what to do. Don't think.
Yeah.
Just get your new iPhone.
Exactly.
That's American
work
culture.
A shitty job.
Yeah. Go to work. Work too hard. Don't get enough vacation time. Don't have paid time off. Don't have it. And we accept it. And here we are with a pivotal moment. This was supposed to be a political revolution. And sure, there's some protests going on, they're marching, this and that. But fuck us. If this is the best we can do, fuck us, we don't deserve it. Fuck us all. Because look.
But what about socialism? I mean, is this an alternative? I mean, the paper says Socialist Appeal. I mean, do you think that, what's the alternative? Socialism?
The alternative is, I do think, so a purely laissez-faire, hands-off capitalistic society inherently leads to, capitalism and cancer are the same. Growth for the sake of growth. Rich get richer, and it's just two classes, and the top class is very small relative to the rest. So that doesn't work. So there's got to be some regulation. That's kind of what we have, but the regulation's getting less and less and less, and so that divide is increasing. So Bernie's message of a capitalist society that implicitly works for a social reason, a social good, regulated for so.
How does it do that?
It is regulation.
But
it's
I mean,
not big government.
I agree that there
regulation.
I think that we need.
It's not allowing tax havens overseas.
But this will never happen. This will never happen under our current system because the people with the money control all the power.
That's what I just said, though. If there was a million people here right now, it would happen in this current system.
It wouldn't.
It would. if there was a million
why do we go to Iraq? And why do we go to Iraq? Was it popular to go to Iraq? It was because the upper class wanted it to happen. Why do we not get
because there
single-payer
wasn't a
healthcare?
million people saying, fuck it, we're not doing it, it's our democracy.
But it was people marched for healthcare. They marched against the Iraq War. It still didn't happen.
It's fear of this two-party system, and it's fear of the other guy rather than voting for the greater good. It's voting for the lesser evil.
Well, yeah, no, that's awful. I hate that. It's bad.
But if there was a million people here, that means we're implicitly saying we're voting for the greater good. We're not scared of the good.
I think even then they wouldn't listen to us. I mean, we have to organize a party of the working class. We need a party of the working class in this country, and we don't have one.
How would you define working class?
People who advocate for the needs of people with incomes of less than $100,000 a year. Let's start there. Let's call that working class. Even that's not for working class, but still. I mean, people who are going to fight for labor rights and the rights of individuals and free health care, free education. Party based on that platform.
So let me ask you another question. I mean, when we talk about, let's say, working class, I mean, sometimes what I think about, I mean, speaking of education, I think that one of the best examples of when you really want people to have really good education and spending a lot of time studying is the doctors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I'm going to see my doctor, I'm entrusting the doctor the most precious thing that I have. My health and my life, right? I mean, that's the concern of every individual, right? So, I mean, to become a really good doctor, what do you think would be the incentive in the socialist country to actually be a good doctor?
We don't disagree with the wage system. I mean, up until we have...
Everyone knows she cheated! You better fight! Everyone knows!
Until we have...
You better fight!
a society which makes people want to work hard for it, we can still have the wage system, have the bonus system, and have people paid more and compensated more for doing better work. We don't disagree with that. And they had that in the early Soviet Union as well.
No, they never had it.
They did. In 1917, they had the wage system. They did. They did.
We already know that she controls CNN and MSNBC.
In 1917, they were busy killing. They were busy with the Red Terror. They were busy expropriating what belongs to others. I mean, look, I lived there. I actually, even if I didn't want to learn the history, you know, I was
But it was also
spoon-fed.
It was also history fed through the Stalinist bureaucracy, though. It was.
It's Stalin's bureaucracy. Is putting it very
Mildly.
correct. You know, that's what Putin is doing now to sort of resurrect the good name of Stalin. Stalin is the second biggest mass murderer the world has ever known.
Americans with American Indians are the biggest, even bigger than Hitler.
The
Europeans in general are the biggest mass murderers of.
Well,
Smallpox killed more people.
What do you think about the Incas? What's the view of the Incas, for instance?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, just a question. What do you think about the Incas?
Well, are not overly knowledgeable. I mean, I know that they got too big too quick, I think, and
what did they do with their neighboring tribes? Well, exactly. En masse. That was slaughtering them left and right. Indians, well, unfortunately, they didn't have the immune system to resist the right, exactly. I mean, 90% of the Indians, I mean, we all know that, died from smallpox. I mean, they died from natural causes. You can't really blame, others for that. Who knew that there's such a thing as smallpox? Who knew what a microbe is?
Unless
right?
we weaponized smallpox on blankets and gave it.
When they do it on purpose, when you on purpose murder 50 million of its own citizen, and that's the other key word, own citizen. No one was immune.
He was not citizen the other day in Dallas.
That's true, that happened.
What happened in Dallas?
Yeah, there's a
shooter,
remember
they took in a drone?
The police shooter that killed 5 policemen. We had a bomb robot. We strapped explosives to a bomb diffusing robot.
That's right.
It was really him. I mean, you know it's him, but he didn't go to trial. That's guaranteed. He was assassinated by a drone by the American government.
And nobody
as a citizen.
Yeah.
So it was proven beyond any reasonable doubt after the fact that he was the shooter, correct?
There was no trial.
There's
We're
no
not
trial.
sure. Who knows? I mean, probably officially yes, but still, he had.
So you would
has
rather
practice
see him continue shooting,
I don't
people.
want to see that.
But what's the solution? Well, I mean, what do you do in
If you have the
circumstances like this?
sophistication to get a machine in there, blah blah blah, this and that,
Yeah.
you can probably do something that doesn't kill him.
Exactly.
Yes. That
All
can-
options were not exhausted before
Right.
they sent in a drone to kill the guy.
So you have sympathy for him.
Huh?
So you feel
No,
sympathy for
I have
him.
no sympathy for him.
I'm saying we're doing that now.
Well,
what Stalin did, his own
you
citizens.
can't have a
it's not
society that claims to be a
millions.
paragon of peace and justice and then do shit like that.
I
You
would
can't
say
have it both ways.
I would say there's a difference between A, the numbers,
There
1
is.
and 50 million, and second,
No, I understand.
and
but
second,
the point is,
well, the point is
where's
that
the slippery slope?
well, the slippery slope is that if the guy were not at that place, if ballistically the bullets were not coming from the area where he was in, then obviously nothing would have happened to him.
Right.
While in the Soviet Union, he did absolutely nothing.
No,
Looked
you're
like a
right.
normal
Stalin's a
person.
terrible guy.
In the middle
All
of the
perfect,
night,
yeah.
the black car
KGB
comes.
knocks on
Yeah.
your check-in.
Well, I don't know what they're knocking on, but they were definitely dragging the entire families, the entire populations.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
socialist. Do you have many followers?
Do we have any followers? There's some people.
And you share the same.
Huh?
You share the same ideas of. So, what do you think socialism is a good idea? I mean, Bernie Sanders calls himself socialist Democrat, now social Democrat.
But he is
so
a
yeah,
social democrat. He is a social democrat.
but why is he using the word socialist? I mean, how can we
He
explain?
does use the word. He did many years.
Yeah.
I mean,
So does he or does he not use the word socialist Democrat?
I think because it's scary to the public.
But he was and he is using the word socialist Democrat,
I'm
no?
not sure. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I mean, you're a Bernie fan, but is he using socialist Democrat or
I
social?
mean, for many years.
For many years.
He said, I'm a socialist. He
Okay.
would just say, I am a socialist.
So if he says for many years he's a socialist, if you walk like a duck, as the saying goes, in a quack, socialist for many years. I presume that's his philosophy, no?
He's not saying he's not a socialist. He doesn't believe in
He's not socialist. So he's saying that he's socialist, and yet he's not
He's
socialist.
just a social democrat. I mean, he's
But
a New Dealer.
that's
He's
another
not
thing that
like-
boggles my mind. I mean, if we use the words, isn't it something that we used to communicate and convey the ideas? So if somebody's keeps on saying for many, like you said, many years, socialist, but you're saying no. He's not a socialist. He's social. So
With that, I would say that is a direct response either to or from.
sure. Good luck with socialism. Bye.
YouTube channel? Do you have a YouTube channel?
Do you want to watch it?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Let me give you my card.
She cheated. Your honest thinking.
Let me find it.
Do you want to buy a paper?
What's that?
I'm on your YouTube channel. Do you want to buy a paper?
Do you want to buy a paper?
Buy a
Buy a
paper?
paper
Why not?
and contribute. Isn't it?
Sure.
Isn't this? Doesn't that go
I mean,
against
it's
socialist right? Buy. Wait a minute. We just had profit.
I mean, we're
profit.
operating under a system that needs money as well. Oh, wow. No. Ooh. Against. Oh, wow. Okay. So you've got an agenda here. All right.
Don't we all have agenda?
Right on. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So yeah.
Bernie beats Trump.
That was fun.
Bernie beats Trump.
Bernie beats Trump. You mean like physically?